Attention Veterans is underwritten with the generous support of Bob's Trees, family owned and operated since 1942.
If you have evergreens in your landscape, such as hollies or rhododendrons, they can get battered by the winter winds and the cold. And one of the ways you can protect them through the winter is by using a product like Wilt-Proof. This is an anti-desiccant which will protect the foliage, again, from wind, and will help your plants make it through the winter without getting all the winter burn.
We take great pride in our handmade wreaths, kissing balls, garland, swags, and centerpieces. We make them all right here at Bob's Trees. Attention Veterans is underwritten with the generous support of Superior Co-op HVAC. We're in the business of taking care of your home. We heat you up and cool you down. And the factory outlets of Lake George. Over 50 great stores in one central location. Exit 20 off the Northway.
The Lake George Outlets. Shop at over 50 stores. Amazing savings from designer brands like Gap, J. Crew, Under Armour, LL Bean, and many more. Visit LakeGeorgeOutlets.com for special offers and instantly download a VIP coupon book. Located just off Exit 20 on the I-87 Northway in Lake George. Everyone needs an outlet.
Attention Veterans is underwritten with a generous support of the following companies and individuals. The Adirondack Regional Chambers of Commerce has been an advocate for the business community since 1914. And the Stovery, 40 years strong, home of the soothing fires.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, I'm very excited to announce that together with my co-host, Cheryl Hage Perez, we're going to be doing a follow-up series. You might recall 6 months ago, Cheryl and I co-hosted a series called A Look at Veterans. Well, as a result of the feedback that you received and I received afterward, Cheryl, I was stopped at Cumberland Farms, I'd be stopped at Hannaford, the most unusual places, and people would comment on the series. But it was also interesting, and you heard this as well, that people would say, gee, I wish I had spent more time on the topics.
People were very informed that, first of all, there were these issues that veterans face. A lot of people said to me, we didn't know veterans went through that.
Yes, right.
And the second issue was, okay, I know a veteran who's suffering like this or dealing with these issues. How do they get help? So we're going to focus on what to do.
Right, got you. Now, in the series, which will be longer form, by the way, and as you can tell, we're on location. And I want to tell you about this location in particular in a few moments. But let's go through some of the topics that you and I heard about that people asked us to go more in depth on. Obviously, the VA administration.
The VA was probably the most people focused on. Was what does we know what the VA provides, but how do we know if we're eligible for services?
Yeah, right.
Or who do we call if we have a special need? And is it just housing? Or what about medical? What about addiction services?
Right.
What about female issues? So we're going to have a social worker from the VA on who's going to talk about the wide array of services that the VA offers and how you can find out if you're eligible for services and what services you're eligible for.
You know, I want to chase that for a second because one of the times I was stopped, a guy my era stopped and said, really love the series that you did. I'm a Vietnam veteran, you know, and he said, so I guess I'm too old to be eligible.
Yeah.
How about that?
Well, unfortunately, many Vietnam era veterans do not think they're eligible because we have to be realistic. Those times, Vietnam veterans were not respected.
That's right.
They were not honored. It was a disgrace to our country how we treated those veterans. And they seem to think that that is still prevalent today.
Yeah, right. Boy, what a mistake. Now, other issues that came up. Veterans with disabilities.
Veterans with disabilities, especially service-connected disabilities, whether it be a physical disability, but one thing people were not aware of were the invisible wounds of serving in our military.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that really piqued people's interest because so many of our veterans, you can't see what they're dealing with emotionally and internally that really cripple them and impair them from living a successful life.
Issues of employment are important.
Employment and employment training opportunities.
Yes, right.
Most of our veterans released from the military, the skills that they had and the jobs that they had in the military don't translate to civilian life. So what am I going to do when I come out? You know, I was in the infantry. I mean, I can't become a hitman, you know. What am I going to do with my military training? And unfortunately, there's no training for when you are to leave. So we're going to have an employment training specialist on to talk about training options and how employers around our communities are willing to hire veterans and train veterans to help them transition from military life.
Right. Just a quick sidebar. You probably noticed we have a little bee that is taken to you. So sweet.
He just loves me.
They just love you. And we're not stopping the conversation.
No, I can handle it.
Yeah, I know you can. And last but not least, and leading us into why we're here today, housing issues.
Housing issues. Housing is a very serious issues for veterans because of the high cost of renting housing today. Not just in our community, but across the country. Our veterans cannot afford to live in their communities, and oftentimes that causes them to lose their home, splits up the family, causes major depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, and they find themselves homeless.
Right. Can you imagine?
No, I know.
Yeah, I know you.
That's why I got in this field.
That's right.
Because I was working with a homeless population, and I kept seeing so many people homeless, checking off, yes, I'm a United States veteran. And I thought, homeless veteran, those two words don't even belong together.
That's right.
So that's why I came to work at Veterans and Community Housing Coalition, to see what we can do to make a difference and try to eliminate the homelessness among veterans.
And by the way, where we are today is a perfect example. This is the Guardian House. Again, to help veterans in transition with a very unique twist. This one is supplying services for female veterans.
Solely female veterans, and it's important to know that we're one of 2 programs for female veterans in New York State.
Wow.
And there's only 8 in the entire country. So that just goes to show what an underserved population female veterans are today.
You know, of course, I bet a lot of you would agree that what you think about immediately is safety net. You think about the fact that these men and women served our country, protecting us. We come back, it's our turn to protect them, that they are eligible, they did earn it, but they've got unique difficulties to face in a lot of ways. Now, this particular place, Guardian House, you can house, I think you mentioned it once, it was up to 11, which is hard to believe sometimes.
Yes.
But on an average, maybe 6 or 7 women,
Yes.
average age about 40 or so, providing them with all of the support they need in terms of being in a home.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well,
talk about that for a second.
It's the services and support they need to develop the skills or redevelop the skills that they had prior to serving our country, or maybe they never had them. So we focus on money management, we focus on socialization skills, we focus on communication skills, things that we all take for granted that are part of our everyday lives that have interfered with our female veterans remaining permanently housed. So a lot of the ladies come here with absolutely no income. So we help them get income. We help them understand if they're eligible to work. We help them get jobs. So there's a whole array of services. The average length of stay is about 16 months.
Yes, wow. Think about that for a second, if you would. 16 months to go from here to here. And one thing you had mentioned inside that I wanted to just cycle back on too, these women may have families. The families may be split up. So you have programs to be able to help reunite these families again, getting the skills, getting the training to be able to unite those families.
Probably about 40 to 50% of our females come with us with children, but they're not together. Their family unit has been separated either most of the time not by choice, but because of the issues facing the veteran. So we work to help the veteran redevelop their skills, and then we work on family reunification, which has been very successful, and it's very warming to see women get reunited with their children, grandmothers get reunited with their grandchildren. So that's a big part of the success of our veterans and moving on.
Yeah, you know, when you hear a phrase like family values, that's the core of family values right there.
Yes,
You know what I'm talking
absolutely.
about? It was interesting. I did a tour before this interview, and there was a pantry loaded with food. There was a room dedicated to helping women who might need an article of clothing. I've been in some of the rooms, and they're beautifully well-kept rooms, and an opportunity for someone to really take that moment that they would need, however long they need, to be able to reestablish themselves, their own self-worth, their own self-esteem, and then learn some of the skills to reintegrate back into society.
Absolutely.
That to
and
me
I
is-
want to point out that
Yeah.
the pantry that is filled with food
Yes,
is 90% from donations.
yes, right.
And the donation room is 100% donation. This community has been so generous to our veterans. If a woman comes to us with just one bag full of basic clothes, they can go in there and find everyday clothes. If they want to go on job interviews, we have nice outfits for them to wear, and they're all donated. We even have people in the community who give us cash donations. So if a special need arises for a veteran, like a winter coat or shoes or something, that we can buy them.
You got them covered, you know?
Well, the community has them
Yes.
covered, and I think that says a lot about the community that we are living in.
Yeah. Well, Cheryl, after we finished the first series, A Look at Veterans, I was so proud of the work that we had done.
Yes, me
you
too.
know, and now, so attention veterans, please stay tuned, because in the coming weeks, over the next couple of months, Cheryl and I will be talking to a number of people, specialists in the field, to help our veterans.
Who are going to give you the information you need as a veteran to get services that will help you, or as a family member to help your veteran get the services that they need to alleviate some of the things that they're going through.
Gotcha. All right, so I'll see you next week, right?
Cheerio.
Now, you know, I did notice the bee loved you and a fly loved me. Is there anything...
Well, I can't say it online.
You can't say it online, okay. And you can see this interview again, along with the bees and the flies, and the traffic noise in the
traffic,
background.
and our plants.
And the plant. Go to looktvonline.com.
So if you haven't already, now is the time that you can be pruning back your perennials and other things like grasses and roses. Basically with a perennial, you want to leave the crown. You just want to take your plant, reach in, cut it back to like that. Again, you know, coreopsis, easy to prune back, couple snips, and that's about all you need to do.
Bring your family and tag your tree now. It's a great time to pick out your perfect Christmas tree at Bob's Trees.
The Lake George Outlets. Shop at over 50 stores. Amazing savings from designer brands like Gap, J. Crew, Under Armour, LL Bean, and many more. Visit LakeGeorgeOutlets.com for special offers and instantly download a VIP coupon book. Located just off exit 20 on the I-87 Northway in Lake George. Everyone needs an outlet.
I would like to welcome again Cheryl H. Perez, also known as Lola, who is, you knew it,
That's right.
You did know it.
That's
I know
right.
you did. And to help us really delve more into the issues that veterans face. Veterans from all ages, both sexes, and what we found out, right, was after we did the first series that people wanted us to talk more about this.
The feedback that I had was that it was a very informative series, but they needed more detail to get the services or information to help them personally or to help a family member.
Yes.
So
right.
we decided to bring back a lot of our guests from the first series to talk more about how a veteran can access the services that they need, or if you know a veteran, how you can help them access services.
Well, rising right to the top of the list, of course, was the VA. And joining us again is social worker for the VA. This is Carrie Blanchard. Welcome back, Carrie.
Thank you for having me back.
Oh, it's very nice to have you back.
Thanks for coming.
The things that I heard, and I'm telling you, on the street, when I was at Cumberland Farms, if I was in Hannaford, you know, right where it was, people would immediately responded to the fact that we had done the series. And the questions started, and VA questions came up immediately. And one of the ones that I'd like to delve in more is, how does a veteran know that he or she is eligible for services from the VA?
Yep, and that's a very good question, because there's a lot of different questions regarding who's eligible and who's not. So when I run into a veteran that doesn't know if they're eligible, I actually send them to the Veteran Service Center at the VA, or they can call the Veteran Service Center. And they're the experts in knowing who is eligible and who is not eligible.
But off the top of your head, can you think of any criteria? A lot of the feedback that I had was, well, I didn't serve in combat, or I'm a female veteran, or I was discharged from the Vietnam era, so I don't qualify.
Yep, it's not true.
Good.
Vietnam veterans are definitely eligible, female veterans are definitely eligible, and it depends on what time you serve. Sometimes if you even served like a day of active duty, you might be eligible. And then there's a certain date, which I'm not an expert at, but you would need two consecutive years. So that's why, because there's all different rules, that's why I refer them to the Veteran Service Center. But you definitely do not have to serve combat in order to be eligible for VA services.
Yeah, that was one of the key questions that I received. I remember a Vietnam era veteran came up to me and thanked us for doing the series and said, you know, unfortunately I'm not eligible. And I said, why are you not eligible? I'm too old. And I thought to myself, boy, that's just the opposite, right?
Exactly.
Another thing that came up is the scope of the services. And by the way, if you hear noise in the background, it's because we're outside, we're on location, all right? And quite honestly, I don't want to stop the conversation because a car starts or something like
Exactly.
that. Let's talk about the services that are available.
Yep, well, there's primary care.
Right.
And within primary care, there's a women's clinic specific for women veterans. There's an OEF OND clinic for veterans who served during the, like in Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait. So there's a clinic specifically for them. There's also different clinics, you know, throughout the Glens Falls, Plattsburgh, Bainbridge, all over. For veterans that are not specifically from the Albany area. In this area is Clifton Park, Glens Falls. And so besides primary care, there's open access clinic. There's emergency room at the Albany VA. There's specialty medical clinics at the Albany VA. And that's for physical health. For mental health, there's counseling, there's psychiatric care, there's specialty clinics for PTSD, for military sexual trauma, people who had experienced that. There's homeless services. There's CWT, which is a compensated work therapy program. Within the homeless program, we also have an employment specialist who works with veterans specific to the homeless program. There's Veterans Justice Outreach, who works with judges and courts and police officers to educate on veterans and to coordinate care for veterans who might be in jail, trying to get out of jail, or just got released from jail and might need services. We also have somebody that goes into the prison system, and when they're getting released from prison, then they try to help them get connected with care. So it could be housing, it could be primary care, it could be mental health. We have substance abuse specialty. So we have a wide variety of specialty care.
I was trying to keep up with you and I couldn't even keep up.
There's a lot.
And those services are provided in-house, either at the VA Center in Albany or at the clinics located in different places throughout the community. Now, and also the outreach programs. You know, I was kind of listening to you and kind of getting it drilled down into those three areas. You would interface mostly with the outreach services, correct?
We interface with the housing services mostly.
Yes, right, got it.
We provide the housing for the homeless veterans through our partnership with the Stratton VA.
Right.
And Carrie, I have a question when we talk about eligibility. For all those services you mentioned, Is it true that a veteran has to have at least an honorable or general discharge? Is there any program that would serve a veteran who had less than that?
A grant per diem program, they could serve a veteran who has other than honorable program, a discharge if they have a day of active duty other than training.
So that's the services we provide.
Yeah, got it, sure.
So our programs historically have not been able to help veterans who have a less than honorable discharge or general discharge. But recently they changed that criteria because there were so many veterans who had served 3 years and then maybe because of their service made a mistake.
That's right.
And so now they are eligible for support services, and I think that's a great step forward for the VA.
Well, you know, that actually provides another layer of the safety net, right? In that, you know, if a veteran does make a mistake and it winds up affecting their record, you know, that if that really stays with them, it prevents them from being rehabilitated or it prevents them from getting on with their life, then they fall through the cracks immediately.
Then their life is devastated.
Yes,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah, another thing though is if they do have a discharge, like a bad conduct disorder kind of discharge, I know. I think later on in the show you're going to be having like a veteran service officer come in,
Yes.
and we refer them to them to apply for an upgrade as well.
Yes.
So
basically,
that could be possible.
that means if somebody has a bad conduct discharge, there are ways with the help of the Veteran Service Agency, and we're going to be having Frank on,
Yes, right.
where they can help them upgrade their discharge
Oh,
to
got
a
it.
general, so that stigma isn't on their military record for
Yes,
the
got
rest
it.
of their
Boy,
life.
that seems very important to me.
It is.
Now, just getting back inside some of the services, special services. That's the way I would describe it. You know, a female has specific needs. A single mom would have a specific need. You know, talk about some of the special services there.
Yep, but there's a whole clinic that serves women's medical care, and they also have social workers that are assigned to the women's clinic that will provide them with kind of anything, a lot of different services, to be honest with you, whether it be a mammogram or counseling. There's intimate personal violence, which is not specific to just females, coordinator. So if somebody's in a violent relationship, then they could receive care from that as well. Like I said, it doesn't have to be female, it could be male or female.
And that violence, by the way, could be when they were serving and when they were discharged as well.
Or in their
Correct.
current living
Yes,
situation.
that's what I mean
Yes.
by that.
Right.
No, I think that's important to note also.
Those female services have been instrumental in helping so many of our female veterans move on, because it's very difficult for them, especially those who have dealt with military sexual trauma and have post-traumatic stress or depression and anxiety, to then have to go to a male doctor to do an internal exam or, you know, for their OBGYN needs. And that has inhibited many females from even going for health care.
Sure.
So the Stratton VA has done a terrific job in helping female veterans have separate services so that it reduces their anxiety about going in, and I think it's been very successful.
You realize, you know, we don't really know the complex nature and the subtle nature of what some of this means to veterans. That's I pick up on that a lot, Cheryl. And the thought there is that, you know, you serve our country, you deserved this, you earned it. One veteran said something very interesting to me. He said, well, you know, not me first.
Right.
You know, and just think about that for a second. You know, you're serving, and it's a brotherhood, it's a sisterhood. You come back, you do deserve the services. Now, first I want to thank you, Carrie, for coming back again and explaining some of the services again in more detail. Thank you, as always, for being my cohort in crime.
Lola.
My Lola. But I also want you to know that at the end of the interview, we're going to be posting a screen listing a lot of the services that the VA offers, and also phone numbers or contact information. Just look at that list. It's worth a phone call. It's worth contacting the VA just to double check and make certain about
What
the services.
And my last word is don't assume that you're not eligible.
Yes, right.
Call the number and just see if you are, because you'd be surprised how many veterans, male and female, assume they're not eligible, and once they enter the VA, they find out they're all eligible for so many services that will truly have a positive impact on your life.
Oh, God, that's well said. All right, I'll see you next week. And thank you, Carrie, for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. And to see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.
The Lake George Outlets. Shop at over 50 stores. Amazing savings from designer brands like Gap, J. Crew, Under Armour, LL Bean, and many more. Visit LakeGeorgeOutlets.com for special offers and instantly download a VIP coupon book. Located just off Exit 20 on the I-87 Northway in Lake George. Everyone needs an outlet.
If you have evergreens in your landscape, such as hollies or rhododendrons, they can get battered by the winter winds and the cold. And one of the ways you can protect them through the winter is by using a product like Wilt-Proof. This is an anti-desiccant which will protect the foliage, again, from wind, and will help your plants make it through the winter without getting all the winter burn.
We take great pride in our handmade wreaths, kissing balls, garland, swags, and centerpieces. We make them all right here at Bob's Trees.